Hello and welcome to the Nice Center Alumni interview, where each week we sit down with an NDSU alumnus who has gone on to entrepreneurship and try to tease out the wisdom they have gained through the process. This week's guest is Jen Burgard, co-founder of Hopeful Heart Project. She graduated from NDSU in 2007. After enduring the tragedy of losing a child, she, along with her friend Kayla Sorum, decided to start Hopeful Heart Project, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing hope, healing, and support to parents who have endured the tremendous loss of a child. Jen, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah, I am so glad to have you on. Your story is so
Thank you.
powerful. And just to kick off the interview, I'd like to start with your story. Most of us, of course, could never understand what you felt after the loss that you endured. And you're open about your story so that other parents who experience this tragedy know that they have a support network. I think kind of just hearing like what motivated you to dedicate your life to helping others could help provide the listener with some good context, as well as give them a needed reminder of a situation that many parents experience that can obviously be extremely hard to talk about.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? You just covered like a really large, a large section, right, of my journey and kind of what and how and everything, because there's so many things that played into it. So, yes, I'm an alumni from NDSU, and I graduated 2007, like you said, and I graduated with a degree in interior design. And I will say, maybe we'll mention this later too, but I think it's important because a lot of people that go into interior design or architecture have dreams of becoming an entrepreneur, opening their own practice, business, things like that. And people used to ask me all the time, is that something you want to do? Yeah, that'd be so great. No, thank you. I'll pass on that, right? And that was just always my stance on it. It was no way. I like the safety, right? But I practiced interior design for over 10 years. And then in 2017, I was pregnant with my second child, a little boy. We already had a little girl at home. And so, like I said, this was our second. And, setting everything up, setting up nurseries, we were all ready to go. It was just 2 days before my induction date. And, something really, awful happened and, rushed to the hospital. And unfortunately, my little son did not make it. It was completely unexpected. It was, one of those things that just isn't supposed to happen. And I never thought would happen to me, just never thought it would happen to me, right? That's what everyone says when they go through something terrible and traumatic. So, after that experience, I took some time away. I took some bereavement leave and went back to my job as an interior designer, and had a great company that I worked for, and they were very supportive. But I just, something just didn't feel right. I think I didn't have the passion for it that I thought I should, and that I had before. And so I think ultimately I met someone who was kind of faced with a similar circumstance. And, we grabbed coffee and we just sat and chatted for a long time about that experience and about what we were going through, about, finding connection in, this experience and what it felt like to talk to someone who actually had been through it and understands. And, through that process, we said, hey, we know there's women and dads that are going to follow in our footsteps. There just will be. And there's so many before us that have experienced this. There's got to be something to this. There's got to be a better way. And so we, as strangers, like you do, we set out and decided to start a nonprofit together. I think we took it as a hobby from the beginning, as a way to kind of heal our own hearts and to kind of put our losses with purpose, give them a little bit more meaning, make it feel like we were doing something good with all the bad that had happened to us. And then as it grew, we just were shocked by the need and, the people that came out to support it and said, yes, we need something like this. And I think that's what it grew from. It grew from, a passion that I once had in something, interior design, into a passion that I couldn't ignore, right? Like I couldn't just shove it down and ignore it. So was a really long answer to that question.
No, it was great. And thank you for sharing that story. It's very powerful. So you go on to start this nonprofit. Just to kind of dive in for our listeners into
Mhm,
kind of like the business aspect of starting a nonprofit specifically. Like what are
mhm,
kind of the biggest challenges just
okay.
with starting a nonprofit?
I think, the biggest challenge is I would say diving into, the paperwork and, just the legal side of it, just especially if you haven't run a business or owned a business before. I think, I found it to be not too bad. I would spend my lunch breaks doing it or my evenings or my weekends doing it, signing up, getting your 501(c)(3, go, oh, now you got to go through this state agency. Now you got to go through this and get approved through this. And I think that was pretty daunting, but I think making sure that you had all those, ducks in a row before you get started, because you can get ahead of yourself, right? You can get ahead of yourself and say, I just want to design a pretty website and I just want to, get out there and have an event. But I think what really made it successful for us, and we're noticing even now today, is that we set it up right from the beginning. We took the right steps, whether that was just Googling how to start a nonprofit, right? I think that's kind of the hardest part in some ways is, harnessing your excitement and making sure you're taking
Yeah,
each step you need to take appropriately. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. One step at a time.
Hmm.
You kind of mentioned earlier how you never considered yourself kind of like an entrepreneurial like spirit or whatever. But you had this novel experience, and it's one that most people wouldn't expect you to come like into the entrepreneurial space from. So
Hmm.
could you just comment on like how important it is for people with these kind of novel experiences to
Yeah.
offer like a service to people who have gone through the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, ugh, I can speak a lot of different ways on that. But yeah, I think, um, in my experience, if you experience anything, traumatic or huge in your life, those are the things that shape you, right? They shape the person that you are, they shape the person that you're going to be in the future, and they shape your perspective on the person that you were before. So, I look back at who I was in 2016. That's an entirely different person than I was in late 2017. That's 1 year, and that's anything can happen to anyone, right? And so, um, I think it just takes one thing sometimes to just change your life in a way, and to change what's important to you. I think that's really big. And I mean, I think when you're talking about wanting to be an entrepreneur from the beginning, right? It's, I talk to people that are like, oh, my mom and dad were both entrepreneurs, and just think I want to do that too. And I think that's awesome and that's great. I think, but it's important to find the right thing. I think a lot of times in these days, there's, oh, you could open a franchise, you could do this. There's different ways to do different things, but making sure that what you're finding is the absolute right thing, because it's going to take so much passion to keep it going when it's hard. And I think just
Yeah,
that I just didn't have that for design. And I think I was given that with my loss of my son.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's an incredible story, and you can obviously see why you're motivated to do it. Um,
Hmm.
we recently interviewed Kelsey Zotnik, and she's founder of Tracy Sanctuary House, which helps families who have endured or have to endure like long hospital stays of their loved ones.
Hmm.
So, like, this is an example of like a nonprofit that helps and gives emotional support to a family. But
Hmm.
as a society, do you think we kind of lack those types of things? Just, I mean, especially because like the prototypical entrepreneur like isn't usually starting like businesses that do this kind of thing, and
Hmm.
especially like nonprofits. I'm not sure how many of these exist, and they seem really important. I don't know. Could you just comment on that?
Yeah, they're absolutely important. And I think nonprofits that offer emotional support in that area, I think are born out of, the fact that there just isn't that support, right? Unfortunately, there wasn't that support for that, family or person that started that organization. And so they felt like they needed to build something. And I think that's completely true. That's completely, there are amazing organizations out there, because we know that the world is hungry, right? We know that there are homeless. We know that kids need food and education and books. and all these things. And I think sometimes our society doesn't do a very good job. And it has been a big calling towards support and mental health over the past few years, right? Which is amazing. But I think until then, our society really hasn't done a good job of supporting mental health and supporting, PTSD, all types of these mental illnesses that are associated with trauma. And I think especially in the Midwest, we struggle with that. I was raised more of the, you just shove those feelings right down where they belong, right? And then, eventually they bubble up. And so I think we are putting those emotions, those feelings, that trauma, that hurt up on a pedestal and saying to own it, and to honor it and honor what it does for you and for the community around you. So I do think that's so important because such greatness can be born from that.
Yeah, and the courage to actually go and start an organization that helps is incredibly important because, too many people are going through these feelings, and someone who understands it is really the only person who can run an organization that helps people going through that. So we obviously the Nice Center's at NDSU. I was just wondering if you could just talk about NDSU a little bit more. And I was wondering if you incorporate interior design into Hopeful Heart, because I know you give hope packages, and they seem like just some fun gifts. I was just wondering if you could kind of speak to how your education at NDSU maybe helped you later on and throughout. And yeah.
Yeah, my education at NDSU and my degree was certainly not wasted. Absolutely not. I would never say that ever in a million years. When I started the interior design program at NDSU, I fell in love with interior design. I think it's great, but that program is actually quite rigorous, and they work you really hard, and they also teach you an incredible sense of independence and responsibility. And I think it was something that I hadn't experienced I dabbled in a couple other majors, I'll say. And it was something that I hadn't experienced in any of the other majors that I was in. And just this, understanding that you needed to get your things done, you needed, and you needed to be professional, and all these things. We just had the best teachers that I think really had our future in mind, right? They wanted to push out someone, not just get them through the program. They wanted to push out someone who was going to be successful in the future for themselves, be successful for NDSU, and, say, well, this program is amazing. And this program consistently puts out this caliber of graduate. And that was so, so important because I took my skills to a different city in a different state. And they had said there, even we love hiring NDSU grads. We just love NDSU grads because they work so hard and they're independent and they're capable. And, I think that made such a huge difference on me. And I was given the tools, which I didn't realize then. I was given all the tools I needed to start a business, to, succeed in a business, to, follow my passion. And then given the ability to have an eye for design and color and perspective and all of those things, which came in when, if you check out our website, all of those things come in. As far as our logo, as far as, we do clothing, we do hope gifts, as you mentioned, and we're very, very thoughtful about what goes in there, not just from an emotional standpoint, but from how it looks. Because, we just don't want it to look, we don't want someone to receive something that looks like it was a hand-me-down, it was slapped together, it was, we want it to feel professional and polished, and we want them to feel important. We want that mom and dad to feel like their child is important. And the way that we do that is by making sure they're getting the best possible items. And, there's a feeling, there's a reason, branding and marketing exists with products, because you get a feeling when you open something up from, a certain manufacturer, that you order a shoe or something, everyone notices the way it's packaged, right? That gives you a certain feeling. And I think we were trying to embody that and make sure we're putting off the right feeling. And that was definitely experience that was gained from what I learned at NDSU. So I'm forever grateful for that experience and everything I learned there.
Yeah, well, you guys really do have a beautiful website at hopefulheartproject.org. And I have a few friends in the interior design program, and they're some of the hardest working students I know, that's for sure.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So your story is really powerful. Just how you came from this tragedy to come and help others. I was wondering if you have any like closing messages, because we're reaching the end of our time here, for anyone. I mean, maybe for someone who just went through a terrible loss, or maybe just for someone who's trying to start a nonprofit of their own. Just kind of just some closing messages.
Absolutely. So, for one, I would say if you're someone that is going through a loss, or my biggest point is if you know someone who's going through a loss, it can be so, so hard for that person to reach out in the moment. But as their friend, as their family member, reach out on behalf of them. Our website is always available. Hope gifts are requested on our website online. It's very simple. We respond to Facebook Messenger, we respond to Instagram messages, emails, all of it. So there is support out there. There absolutely is. And we would rather receive 20 messages about one family who's lost their child than none. And so we do get that comment like, oh, I figured someone else would. You can't always figure that. Not everyone just has it in them. And so it's important that you reach out and that you at least get them baseline services and baseline help, and they can decide from there what else they need. So that would be my big message there. Secondly, as far as starting a nonprofit or any business, I get yourself a mentor. Mentorship is so crucial, and I promise you, we would not be where we are. We've only been doing this since the end of 2017, and we would not be where we are today without the mentorship that we've had along the way. And someone that you can trust, someone that's honest with you, and someone who's willing to give you ideas and willing to offer their experiences. But you also have to take that and remember to be true to yourself. And if it doesn't feel good, then it probably isn't right for you. So we've had some amazing advice. We've had some advice that we took that wasn't so amazing, and it bit us later. So I think just make sure you're being a good judge of that and always aware of what the information is and where it's coming from and why. But get yourself a mentor. So, so important.
Yeah, that's some great advice to end on. And if people do want to reach out to you, where can they do that on social media?
Yep. So we have a Facebook page. It's just at /Hopeful Heart Project. And then we are also on Instagram as well at Hopeful Heart Project.
All right, perfect. And then your website is www.
Yep. hopefulheartproject.org. So it's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is. That's great. And like I said, it's a beautiful website. It really is.
Thank you.
So Jen, thanks so much for coming on today. Your story is super powerful, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was great. So
yeah, no problem. Have a nice day.
All right, you too. Thanks.